Hello and welcome to the Integrative Health Convention 2019 online interviews. Today we're going to find out more about breathwork and changing the world from the inside out with Anthony Abbagnano, who's speaking at the Integrative Health Convention 2019 on the weekend of the 5th and 6th of October at the Park Plaza, Victoria in central London. So this is Anthony Abbagnano, and he is a breathworker, and he can be found at alchemyofbreath.com. And you can find him on Facebook as well with that from that website. And he's got quite a lot of followers, and he teaches breathwork. So hi, Anthony. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be back again.
Great. Should we begin, Anthony, by telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
I get people to breathe, and I train people to get people to breathe. And it sounds like such a basic thing that it doesn't really warrant much consideration. And indeed, in our training, when we train our students to become facilitators of this work, it comes to a point where we say to them, "What are you going to say when someone asks you what do you do?" Because it's quite a challenge to just using the 6 vowels and 20 consonants to formulate the importance of the breath to us and how transformational it can be, what pivotal moments of change and shift it can create. We've never thought about the breath that way. We've always counted on it. But perhaps some ways that I can draw your attention to its significance is that you never know when you've got 10 breaths left, and that's it. And if you did know, how would you breathe them? So there's a sense of taking it for granted that we have because it's part of our autonomous nervous system. We don't really have to think about it. It'll work anyway. But there's also something magical when that happens, when we do give it our attention and we do control it. And these are secrets that have been revealed over the last thousands of years and brought over to the Western world perhaps in the last 50 or 60, that by manipulating our breath, we can actually also reverse engineer the causes of certain conditions that we suffer from, like PTSD or anxiety or stress, or indeed there's some question now as to raising our immune system that's been proven by the Wim Hof breath technique. So we're understanding that although the symptom, or we've always associated our breath pattern as a symptom of a condition, that now we can actually rearrange the breath patterns in such a way as to have an effect on the cause. So you can begin to get an idea of how extremely powerful it can be when you think of it in those terms.
That's amazing. I know you told us before about how you got the story behind how you started doing what you do. Did you want to tell us that again, or?
Sure, if it's of value, yeah. I was a youngster. I was 10 years old, and or 8 or 10, somewhere back there, and a young boy at my school. I was at boarding school, and a boy at my school came and gave me a paper bag and said, "Breathe into that." And so I said, "Well, yeah, okay." He said, "Breathe big, big breaths, inhales and out and exhales." And so I did, and after about 20 breaths, he said, "Okay, now hold your breath." And he came from behind and he squeezed my chest and he let me down to the ground. And I had the most extraordinary experience of my life at that point. In fact, it was the first time that my conviction that there was something missing was proven, because it was given during this 30-second or 40-second experience of understanding. It was one of those aha moments that you have when all the questions are answered. You know, perhaps that's happened to you or any of the viewers here in this moment, that sometimes all the colors are brighter. Your existential search for belonging is completely answered. It was a moment of unreasonable peace and a glorious peace. And so I asked him to do it again. And actually, he'd done this because I was the guinea pig, and I wasn't very popular because I wasn't pure-blooded English. And so they rather pick on me for things like that. And so I was picked on for this experiment. And then I asked for it again, and then it began to become a habit amongst, it was a trend, it was a fashion at school that everybody would start to breathe like this and to have these somewhat out-of-body experiences. So that's how it all began for me. And I had no idea that I'd be sitting here today talking about it. I was just exploring life and excited by it. And the next time I came across it was with the Lamaze breathing technique for pregnant women, and where I had to coach my wife during the pregnancy and during the actual delivery itself, to use the breath as a way to manage the birthing process. And then again, I met it the same way with my second child with a different breathing system, Frederick Le Boyer, whose breathing system is still used actively today in the delivery room. And then after that, my interest was tweaked, and wherever I heard about a breath technique, I followed it. And that included some Sufi breathing techniques, which come with chanting, and then with my explorations of yoga in my 20s, I learned about pranayama and the different breathing techniques used for that. And then I discovered rebirthing and holotropic breath work. And those were two different experiences of definitely using the prana bit of pranayama, but not the yama. The prana means the energy, and the yama means the control. But with the rebirthing and the holotropic techniques, it's not controlling, it's allowing. So we breathe a conscious breath, and we have a certain style of breath, which is called connected, which means you never stop. It looks like a, excuse me, like that. It doesn't have to be very forceful. Holotropic is a bit more forceful than rebirthing. But this very connecting the breath raises the oxygen in the bloodstream, activates all the lobes in the brain get more activated, and giving it our attention and the allowing of the unfolding of what wants to happen. So getting out of the driver's seat for a moment, letting the mind rest, begins to activate more body awareness. And I'm told, and I remember seeing this with, who was the stem cell man, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who said in a talk a few weeks ago, 20% of the information is going from the brain to the body, and 80% is going from the body to the brain. And my discovery with breath work is that that's what we're exploring, is the other 80% of the information. There's so much in the body that's been stored over the years, all the traumas, all the unexpressed emotions have become impressed. And so what we see when people take up breathing as a conscious practice is that there's a lot that wants to come out. There's a lot that wants to be released. And after the release of things that have been compressed, like traumas and the harder incidents, emotions, after those have been expressed, after the release has happened, there's a lot that wants to be revealed. So we then begin to look to the body as our teacher. And here's a simple example. The heart gets massaged every time we breathe. The diaphragm goes up and down, the lungs are expanding and releasing, and each time we do this, we're actually massaging the heart. Well, we also know from the Heart Math Institute that the emanations from the heart are several times, a multiple of times stronger than the emanations from the brain. So the electrical energy field is about 1 meter from the heart, but only about an inch or so from the brain. So as we walk into other people's energy fields, when we are on the tube commuting or sitting in a plane or in a crowd of people, our electrical energy is overlapping with other people's, and it's the heart energy that's overlapping. So we then begin to ask questions like, well, what's the heart got to say about it? What does the heart intelligence have to tell us? And as we begin to open to our heart intelligence, our gut intelligence, our cellular intelligence, and we go into what I call the breath state, there's a quality of felt presence that's achieved that is beyond what the normal processing mind can understand. And when we consider also that, I think it's stated that 5% of our actions are controlled by the conscious mind, and 95% of them are controlled by the subconscious mind, that we're on this autopilot of replaying scripts that we've learnt in the past. What we're seeking to do with breathwork is to see if we can increase that 5% and become more familiar with what the unconscious scripts are, and use the breath state as a way to reinform ourselves and to achieve the sense of unity that people achieve. And this is another extraordinary thing in sessions with breathwork, when people are breathing together. There's a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood that is quite inexplicable. In fact, some people are embarrassed by it at first. They have to sort of clamber over their self-consciousness and resistance, but always the tendency is towards an intimacy, a quality of intimacy with the self, and therefore a quality of intimacy and vulnerability with other people as well. So it's wonderful work for people who are on a team together. You know, I have a company, we have a whole organization, a school with many people that work together. We always start our meetings with a short 5-minute breath meditation. It changes the quality of the meeting completely. It brings everybody into common purpose and harmony, and really wanting to support each other in the best way we can. So the breath, the more you enjoy it consciously, the more it becomes a part of your life, the more it changes your life. And there's a breath pattern for every situation that we're in. While you're bored and waiting in traffic, or if you're irritated and you feel the adrenaline rise, or if you feel challenged, or if you feel like you want energy, or if you want to raise your immune system, or if you want to deal with your stress levels, there's a breath pattern for everything. And it's like a whole paint box that we've never played with. So it's an exciting world to live in.
Oh my, that's amazing. So in October at the Park Plaza at the Integrative Health Convention, you're going to talk to us about changing the world from the inside out. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this is and what the audience will get out of it?
Yeah. Well, I would say my intention is to use the few moments that we have together to demonstrate in a gentle but impactful way how we can learn to take more responsibility for our health, our psychic health, as well as our physical health. So we'll be doing a short meditation, and in that meditation we'll be exploring sensations that are coming from the body. We're going to try to develop some more awareness about this 80% that is available to us, or this 95% that's stuck in the subconscious that makes us do things that don't help us, that get us into trouble, or give us results that we're not happy with. So we'll be addressing the core issue behind the reasons that we make commitments and we break them. We want to make changes and we're not able to. We live as a victim of circumstance instead of being in the power of the creator of our own circumstance. And we're going to use the breath to explore the inner realms to see what can be shifted in just even 5 minutes. What would that next step be that can create the change outside us from working inside?
Absolutely amazing. And I like the fact that there's a breath pattern to accompany any condition. You've always got the breath. So you can accompany, if you're ill or unwell or not unwell enough for the drugs, or with the tablets if you have to, make things more effective.
That's absolutely right. I mean, they found already at the Breathwork Summit in 2012, there was an anesthetist, American anesthetist, that spoke of people coming out of surgery and being in intensive care or reanimation, coming out of those conditions in half the time as a result of breath practices. Also, he speaks of his own personal using the breath as for when to apply anesthetic, catching the right rhythm of the breath and the right moment in the cycle of breath to introduce the anesthetic, and therefore able to use much less. So there's so much that's under our nose. It's right under our nose, and we've just bypassed it. We put it off until we've got those 10 left, those 10 breaths left, and then we worry. Then we think about, oh, what have I been missing?
Yeah.
So what if we wake up to that now and discover this enormous inner world as a result of it?
So one last question, Anthony.
Yeah.
So as a therapist and teacher, what do you think in particular is the key to healing in what you do? Something personal.
I believe it's being willing to take responsibility, to become a player in this game instead of handing it all over to the pill or the doctor or the shopping experience or the coping system. So what I would say is there is a moment in life that is uncomfortable, and we have the tendency to want to skip over it and get to resolution. But we actually settle for relief, and we don't hold out for resolution. In that moment of discomfort, when we pop the pill or we have sex or whatever coping system that we would use, in that moment of discomfort, there's a tremendous amount to be understood. Now, we know, like, for example, the octave. If you take the octave of 8 notes, the first note and the 8th note are the same. One is 1 octave higher than the other. And the 8th note is a note of resolution. So if I sing them with a terrible voice, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, it sounds okay. But if I stop on the 7th note, if I go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and you find yourself waiting, you're waiting for that resolution to come. And that's a moment that's uncomfortable. Do, and then we give it, and the whole system, the whole body, even on a cellular level, we found this too, can go into a state of peace. So let us not be beguiled by the need to stay out of discomfort. A great teacher of mine, Gay Hendricks, said, the best way to not feel pain is to feel it. The reason we have to feel it so much is because we keep trying to avoid it. But the pain is actually the message. And if we're willing to receive the message, as often as not, the pain has no reason to be there anymore. So let us listen to the message that exists in the discomfort rather than paste over it, put the Band-Aid on top.
No, thank you so much. I always learn so much from you, Anthony.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're all learning. That's what's so beautiful about it. And what I've certainly, the best way to teach is to stay a student, that's for sure. And I feel the same way about you, To. So I'm so grateful that we have a chance to connect like this.
Wonderful. So Thank you to the audience for listening. Thank you. And remember to get your tickets early now from our website by following the links below. We are the Integrative Health Convention at the Park Plaza, Victoria in London on the 5th and 6th of October 2019. You can use the discount code video5, which will give you a 5% discount as a gift from us to you for sharing your time with us. So when we see you in October in London, you get to meet Anthony, myself, and all our other amazing speakers who will be sharing so much more with you then. Thank you. Thanks, Anthony.